All right, so if you are joining from YouTube, I'm glad you can watch this presentation from the comfort of your home. Today's workshop is about cultivating healthy screen time habits. The thought of creating this informative workshop was to support our scholars because we just live in a time now where it is so prevalent that we use technology. And we just want to ensure that students are, aware of like safe technology use, as well as create an opportunity for, you at home to identify just alternatives to keeping your children engaged. So I am joined at the school with two amazing social worker interns, Ivy Long. She is a first-year student at Hunter College, and Caroline Groney. She is also a first-year student at Columbia University. Myself specifically, I have been working with Ivy Hill Prep since 2020. And it has been a pleasure. So these members consist of the people who work directly with the students for individual and small group counseling. All right, so today I am going to share the benefits of limiting screen time. I'm also going to talk about setting clear time limit guidelines, and I'll wrap up with just some best practices for screen time in general. And so, as we begin, if you need to pause this video for a moment, I just want you to think to yourself about how many hours per day does the average 7 to 12-year-old spend on the screen? I think it's something that we don't necessarily think about. You may see students, or you may see your child at home using a phone on the television, but how many hours are they actually spending on these devices? And I'll share that on average, children between those ages spend between 4 to 6 hours, whether it's on video games or whether it is watching TV. That's just on average how much time is spent a day for the average child. And if you're a math person, I'm not. I think about 24 hours in a day. That would mean that if a child is spending 6 hours using technology, they're spending at least a quarter of the day on the devices. Right, so I want to talk a little bit about like each of these categories, about like what are the benefits of limiting screen time. So the first will be the overall physical health. Less screen time can encourage children to be more physically active and benefit eye health. If you are around my age, I won't say, but you will probably recognize that most children don't spend a lot of time outside doing physical activities. If given a choice, they probably just enjoy like being left alone on their device. But limiting screen time can create opportunities for children to become more physically active, which is always beneficial. Another benefit is just the mental health. Screen time has been shown to worsen sleep, and certain content or interactions may contribute to stress or anxiety. I think about specifically for maybe like our upper elementary students who may establish stress and anxiety over just the image depictions of like what they should look like, what they see on TV that isn't always like the reality. And so like that takes a toll on like mental health, self-esteem. So just limiting that and spending more time with in-person contact also is, a healthy benefit. Another benefit is social skills. So less screen time encourages children to engage in more face-to-face social interaction where they can pick up emotional intelligence skills like empathy. I want to be clear, like this presentation isn't about like why technology is not okay, but I do just want to bring an awareness that, through television or group chats or social media, it takes away just the social skills of just like knowing how to interact. And that's something that I have, firsthand experienced with students that I'm working with over time, just recognizing that they're a little bit awkward around each other or, prefer to, be behind the computer. So social skills. Another benefit of limiting screen time is just the cognitive development. So too much screen time limits the children's limits time children spend in unstructured play. And essentially, I think about, especially from Ivy Hill Prep's perspective of just like creating critical thinkers, you can pretty much find anything on the internet. If you have a question in your mind, not to say it's going to give you the right answer, but the same for our children, which kind of like limits their ability to just be creative and to think outside of the box because the information is presented there. So another great reason why to, like really start thinking about like the benefits of, decreasing screen time. And then lastly, academics. Too much screen time might harm a child's attention span, making it harder for them to focus in class or learn important time management skills. I do recognize some students come to school and they're thinking about their game. They can't wait till they get home to play their games. And I'm excited that they found something that is really joyful, but it can be a distraction when it comes for them to just focus on their academics. So I said a lot. I'm just going to slow down a little bit. But there are many benefits of limiting screen time. And I'm just gonna mute, someone can hear a little bit of back noise. But if you do have any questions, feel free to just jump in. So if you are there, what do you find most challenging about managing your child's screen time? And if you're watching from YouTube, this is something that you can, start to think about. You can feel free to email me about sthompson@ivyhillprep.org, and we can really talk about it. So some of the things that I can think of, two things that might be particularly challenging about managing a child's screen time, not speaking from a parent perspective because I don't have any children. But one thing that might be challenging for families at home might be finding like healthy or alternatives that are going to keep the child engaged, for an extended period of time. That is completely understandable. And, I hope to be able to provide some information about some alternatives because maybe you need to, get a couple of things done and, the device will occupy the child's time for an extended period. Completely understandable. So that's one of the challenges. And then I think about another challenge it might just be easier to allow the child to use the screen time. That might be the easier option compared to having to have a power struggle. And so those are two that I can think of, but if there are any others, feel free to let me know at any time. And after I get through the presentation, if you're still like, this is still a challenge, then we can work together to, you know, get you the support that you need. So there are time limit guidelines for kindergarten through first grade children. Um, and so this is from the American Pediatrics Association, which recommends that kindergarten and first graders have no more than 1 hour of high quality programming per day, ideally viewed together. And I like this part at the end that says ideally viewed together. This is significant. Um, being a part of what your child is watching allows you to put in context what they're viewing, because they may be drawing conclusions that aren't the most accurate. So, just being the parent, guardian, aunt, uncle, able to like really break down what they're seeing is really great. I also think it's beneficial because it allows you to create dialogue with your child. You get to see their interests. You get to ask them about the things that they're seeing. There's huge social emotional like learning opportunities, and just having conversations about like the cartoons that they're watching, and other things like that. In regards to second through fifth graders, there is no specific time limit recommendation. Instead, you should focus on setting media limits and ensuring that it does not interfere with academics and physical activity or sleep. When I think about second through fifth grade and there being no specific limits, I would say your child best, and you through observation should recognize when maybe screen time is interfering with their ability to focus in different areas. Any questions? So now let's talk about, the best practices for screen time. For me, I think setting clear limits is really important. This means establishing clear guidelines for the maximum amount of screen time allowed each day of the week. I will say that there are many students who I work with who tell me that they are not allowed to like play video games during the week, like Monday through Friday. That's reserved for the weekends. That's a clear guideline. And shout out to the parents who are doing that. That doesn't mean that that's the right way. There are other ways to establish clear, guidelines throughout the week. Maybe it's, maybe it's an hour before bedtime or something of that nature, whatever works in your home. Designate screen-free time. Make certain times like the hour before bed or meals screen-free. I've also seen people do like a specific like screen-free Saturdays, and it's not just the student. It might be like everyone in the household. Like setting that up to kind of like make it a fun, more engaging day, particularly for the family. Prioritize educational content. So here, you want to just show children screens are tools for learning. Encourage apps and content that are specifically for education. And then there are so many that you have to pay for, ABC Mouse and other things of that nature, but there are also free apps as well. I encourage you to explore to ensure that there's a healthy balance of the specific content that your child is, viewing at home. And you should be aware of what your child is viewing at home. I encourage like making that a regular practice of just searching, their search history. Other best practices are using parental controls to monitor content. Making use of parental control tools across platforms and devices Yeah, many of these tools allow you to like block off and place restrictions on things that just may not be appropriate for your scholar at home. Regularly review and update the list and approve websites and apps. I do want to just take a moment to show you some examples of different timers that I use. Um, so I had expressed a moment ago, setting like clear time limits for maybe like younger scholars, um, like visibly being able to see a timer just allows them to know a clear guideline of when their time is done. There's this one, and this is literally an hour. There are also sand timers. This is 2 minutes. I I wouldn't say 2 minutes for screen time, but there are ones that can be a 1 hour sand time, 2 hour sand time, 30 minute sand time. So just get creative with it, especially since like timers is something heavily used in the schools. I also like the idea of modeling healthy behaviors. Um, I I think that that's really important as adults. So try to limit your own screen time use when you are with your child. Um, Children are more likely to adapt positive behaviors when they see them modeled. And this also goes back to me saying screen free Saturdays or screen free Sundays, right? If you're modeling that you're not on your phone all the time, it's a good example for like your children. If you're modeling that you're engaging in physical activity, it's a good example for your children to take interest in other things outside of technology. And again, technology is amazing, very awesome resource, but this is just to give you something at home to consider, especially if you feel like too much screen time has been an issue in your household. Open communication. So have regular discussions with your child about their screen time activity. Encourage them to share what they are learning or enjoy online and address any concerns or questions they may have. Again, this is really helpful with supporting with just like their social emotional development. It's also really important as far as like you're just building your relationship and rapport with your child. Now, I do want to note that if this is something that you haven't been doing and all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, let me see what you're working on. Let's talk about the technology. You might be met with some like confusion from your child, or maybe they want some privacy, but I guarantee you, if you maintain the consistency of like checking in, inquiring about what they're watching, and not from a judgmental lens but more from an informative lens, over time it'll be well received and almost expected. So I just wanted to add that. And then I mentioned earlier that maybe one of the obstacles of, establishing healthy screen time habits um, might be not knowing alternatives. Um, so encourage non-screen time activities such as reading. For older kids who are reading like chapter books, like our fourth and fifth graders, they can get lost in reading, and that's an amazing thing, just, vocabulary and grammar and all the skills that they're building through reading. And some of your kids might argue with you that they're reading online as well, but it's not the same thing. Uh, yeah, so reading books, encouraging arts and crafts activity, or playing board games. Let's bring back board games. I have plenty here. And I'm also like willing to support you. Like if there, are some games that your family may need, I have some great suggestions. So yeah, help diversify your child's interests and experiences. I definitely recommend clubs, programs, sports. Many of our Ivy Hill prep kids are involved in after school. So, that also takes away like that natural screen time that they might be having as soon as school is out. So definitely involvement for sure as an alternative. And then lastly, best practices for screen time is online etiquette and safety. So we want to educate children about responsible online behavior, including the importance of being respectful, using appropriate language, and protecting personal information. And I thought that this slide was appropriate because this has been a lot of information. So I encourage you at home, if you need to rewind and, go back to look at some of the steps, write down 2 action steps that you can implement with your child this week. Set clear limits, designate screen free time, prioritize educational content, use parental controls, modeling, open communication, non-screen time activities. Take 2 action steps. And so if you have any questions, if you might still be struggling, feel free to contact me at Thompson@ivyhillprep.org. So that's S as in Sam, Thompson, THOMPSON @ivyhillprep.org. And once again, I'm the school social worker, and I look forward to seeing you at our next session. Any questions before I close out? All right, wonderful. I hope everyone has a great day.
You too. Thank you very much. It was a good presentation.
All right, take care.